Just show you guys what I'm doing today. I'm canning up some sweet potatoes, and you guys know from watching my other videos that I'm all about time efficiency, right? I want everything to run smoothly, so to take time to make a video, that's inefficient. But anyway, what I've done is I estimated about 20 pounds of sweet potatoes from the garden, and I never actually did weigh them, so I don't know, maybe more than that. But it came out to be these cat litter buckets full of sweet potatoes. Stacked in, but yeah, I never did weigh them. Anyway, I've already canned up one bucket full, and I got 14 quarts of sweet potatoes out of that, so I'm looking at another 14 quarts out of the second bucket is what I'm expecting. So what I've done, first off, outside, the potatoes are already cured. They've been sitting on the back deck for a while, actually like months. Had them on the back deck, brushed all the dirt off, brought them in here, dumped them in the sink full of water. Helps wash all the extra dirt off. I peel them right into the sink, which this is kind of inefficient because, I peel them on top of the other potatoes and I've got to fish the peels out. But if I had more space, I would just peel them into a bucket, but I don't have enough space. Anyway, peeled potatoes go in the bowl. Once the bowl gets full, chopped potatoes go into this bowl. But now, before I start chopping potatoes, I wanted to get all my water and stuff set up so my jars are ready. So I put 7-quart jars in my canner, filled the jars full with water, and then put in, I think it was 2 more jars worth of water in the canner itself to get the bottom of the glass jar off the canner, and then turned it on a high heat to get everything in the canner heating up. And I didn't put the lid on, didn't need to. It's just to get all the jars heated up, get the canner heated up. Kind of gives you a jump start on the prep time once you actually do close the canner. You can see it's steaming right now because I've turned it back on. It's back here. It's on just shy of high, so it's actually wanting to start to boil. I've got 2 jars left. The second pot of water is for the water to put back in the jars, okay, because you've got jars full of water that's heating up. But before you're all said and done, this canner, which you can see it now, you can see where the water level is, the canner needs to be full to the top of the jars. So you need extra water and you want hot water. So as I pull a jar out, I've already done this too much, but okay, hang on. So I've got, this is for the water to fill back into the jars once you put the sweet potatoes in. And then my little pan back here has just got my lids warming up in it. So now I've already done this too many times, but what I would do is grab a jar out of here, see it's full of water, and I would dump it back into the canner, but the canner's already full. So now I'm going to dump it into my refill pot. And the only reason I don't use like extra water out of the canner pot in the potatoes themselves is because this canner gets used for everything, which it should be sterile, but I don't want my sweet potatoes to end up tasting like, I don't know, carrots or something like that. So I don't use water that's been here free in the canner. I don't put back into the jars with the food. So anyway, move a jar over here. This is a hot jar, which you can touch it. It's not like scalding hot. It's not burning me, but it's good and warm. And then bear with me while we fill our jar up here. Use the funnel just for speed. Helps you just kind of throw stuff in there, throw stuff on the floor. And once you get your jar about half full, you're going to give it a good shake and actually let those sweet potatoes kind of settle in and pack on each other. And then do that again about 3/4 full, and then of course once it's full, and you just want to make sure you're not wasting any space. You want to get this, with these being real cubic, which you can see I didn't make tiny chunks. Now some of these are pretty good sized chunks, but I'm going to process it for a good long time, so I know it'll cook down to be soft. And once we open these cans, I'll just make, sweet potato pie or just make candied sweet potatoes or whatever. But there, so now we've got them full. Now see, I dumped my hot water in here, so I've got extra hot water. And we'll just, again, put some towels down, which, if you're like me, because you're trying to work super fast, obviously some better utensils, something better than a coffee cup would help me not be quite so messy. Now you notice on the jar, I left basically up to the bottom of the rings is where I put the sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes don't swell too much. Some of your different stuff like beans, you've really got to be careful because they swell a lot when they can. And you'll find on your recipes they'll give you instruction on, leave extra headspace. But beans I'll usually leave a good 2 inches down because they swell a lot. And that's even, if I can, I'll soak the beans for 24 hours just to help. They won't swell so much then when you actually can them, but they still swell a little bit. Anyway, got a warm lid out of there, and this water, it's here on low, so it's like taking a really hot bath. I wouldn't leave your fingers in there too long. It does get hot. And dig me out a ring from over here. Put my ring on. Give her a good finger tight torque. And replace the jar. And you can see now my fluid level is right up here to the top of the jars where I want it. So this last jar will dump out, dump it into the pot, fill it, can it, get it in the canner, and then close it all up and be done. Alright, so we've got the last 2 jars put in there. The last jar, the canner is full. You can see where the water line is full right to the top. Don't forget your secret ingredient, which is vinegar. And we just put in, not a lot, just maybe a 1/4 cup of vinegar. Just enough to give this canner water a little bit of acidity. If you have any sort of minerals in your water at all, calcium or iron, it's going to want to precipitate on the jars when you can them. So put that in there, and then we'll grab our lid. Pardon all the shaking. Get our lid on here. Lid torqued down. Make sure you're locked. Now, before you put your lid on, make sure this is clear. Make sure this thing works freely. This is your backup, your emergency. It's a pressure indicator and also an emergency pop-off if necessary. But now, we've got everything on. The canner's already on high heat. It's already starting to boil, so see I've jump-started the process. We'll let this baby get to whistling for about 10 minutes. And then we'll throw on our weight and process it with these sweet potatoes. My ingredients said, my book, I'll put it away, but it said, I believe 75 or 90 minutes. It said 90 minutes for quarts on sweet potatoes. So once it gets to whistling after 10 minutes, throw the temperature on, get my pressure up to 10 psi, set a timer for 90 minutes, and let her run. Here's something I like to do, just a little tip. If you don't have enough, I was 1 quart shy of filling the full 7 like I thought, so I always fill up an empty jar and just put a lid on it anyway, just to hold the space. Actually, I've got a lid torqued on it here, but you don't actually need to put a processing lid on it. I'll take that off. A little hot. There we go. Take that off, but I put the water in it, and that just helps helps fill that space. Just, you don't want jars tipping over or tumbling over, which I don't know why they would. They shouldn't, but they could. So anyway, if you have empty space, I always put in an empty jar just to help keep all the jars secure and dump it over. But this is the last of it, so we didn't quite get another 7. We got 6 quarts, and you can see she's starting to steam, so I need to get the lid on it. Here's the 7 that I just pulled out, and I let the canner cool off like I was supposed to, down to 0 pressure anyway. But when I pulled the lid off, a couple of them started to bubble again. So even though I let them cool off proper, you can see that one in the back there is still, this one you can see it's still bubbling. And you can see this one up front, the fluid level is down here now actually instead of at the top. And just for comparison, these are the ones I let cool off from last night, let them cool overnight, and you can see the fluid levels right here on that one, right there on that one. So fuller like they're supposed to be. And I think these might have actually been the first batch that I pulled too quick. The batch I did overnight, I let the cooler cool off all night long, or let the cooker cool off all night long on the stove, and it had the fluid level was right up to the very tip top. So anyway, this is fine. Fluid level down a little bit, that's fine. Everything in there's cooked, that's all sealed and sterilized, so it's not really going to affect anything. Those aren't going to dry out. Even if they do, you can always reconstitute it when you take it out of the canner. They'll soak right back up. So not worried about it, just kind of a personal thing. I like it to be full. Anyway, we've got the last batch going. We're working on getting it up to boiling so we can do our 10-minute process time and then our 10-minute seal time, and then we'll do the 90 minutes of processing time. And we'll get them pulled out and do just like these. Set them out on the counter, let them cool. Once they're cooled off, we'll pull and they're sealed, which these are already starting to seal. Once they're cooled off and sealed, we'll pull the bands off. The jars are a little sticky because of the sugars and the sweet potato it cooked out some. So we'll wipe the jars off, get them cleaned up, and then we'll just slap a label on the lid like that, sweet potatoes, and the day that we can them. And then it'll all go upstairs and go into storage for use later. Well, there's that. There's 24 quarts of sweet potatoes, and I've got 2 more that I left downstairs in the pantry just for quick access, and then of course 1 that I opened up and prepared for dinner that I showed y'all in another video, how to make just a quick sort of, sweet potato pie dessert sort of thing. So total of 27 quarts, and again, I didn't measure how many pounds of sweet potatoes that was to start with, but plenty. It should be plenty. So some of these jars, this whole second batch, I didn't rush any of these out of the canner, but they still boiled out quite a bit of fluid. Like that one boiled out some, but then you look at some of these other ones, like this one, and it really didn't boil out a whole lot. So I don't really know why some of them lost so much, but whatever. I'm not too worried about it. Got me a lot of sweet potatoes, so guess I got a lot of eating to do. Anyway, y'all try this out. You know, I highly encourage people to do home canning and home preserving. It's something I grew up doing as a kid. You know, my mom would spend months and months and months in the kitchen in the summertime. She never left the kitchen. Us kids would just haul everything out of the garden, and she just stayed there in the kitchen, just running. I think she had 3 pressure canners, and she would just keep them all going all day long. So I highly encourage it. Give it a shot. Go get yourself a canner if you don't have one. And you know what? Just to learn it, just go to the store and buy some sweet potatoes. Just learn how to do it, because it's a very good skill to have. It's very simple, and you won't regret it.